afternoon, brothers, and welcome to the first ever episode of Pod Kappa Tau, the podcast about anything and everything Phi Kappa Tau. Through this podcast, we'll be interviewing everyone at the executive offices, getting to know them, their job, and some fun stories while working here for Phi Tau. We'll have plenty of stories shared, as well as new information coming out for each episode. There will be a new episode every Monday afternoon, with a couple of special episodes being thrown in the mix as well, especially around the time of Conclave. My name is Zach Fowler, and I'll be your host for this summer series podcast. I'm from the Alpha Phi chapter at the University of Akron. I initiated in 2015, and I currently serve as a national recruiter for the fraternity. So basically what I do there is I am tasked with restarting new colonies at different campuses. This past year, I was at the University of Southern California, restarting Pi, Penn State University restarting Omicron, and Texas Tech starting a brand new colony, which Phi Tau has never been there before. And then in the fall, for right now, all I know is that I will be at Georgia Tech for a little while at Alpha Rho Colony, helping them establish themselves more. And then in the second half of fall, we will be bringing back the Tau chapter at the University of Michigan. Definitely looking forward to both of those. Definitely looking forward to, hosting this podcast and getting to interview everyone. As well as, getting to interview some other members from National Council, domain directors, the Founders Four winners, different stuff like that. So I'm really thankful that I'm able to get this opportunity for my summer project, as well as thank you for listening to the podcast. Going to try and have a lot of fun with it, and it's going to be a blast. On today's episode, we also have two fellow recruiters, Alex Papke and Eli Fowler, both part of the recruitment team with me. We're going to talk about all of our adventures on the road on these different campuses that we got to see and help restart colonies at, as well as we're going to talk about our topic of the week, why is recruitment important? Enjoy. So I'm here with the first ever guest of the Pod Kappa Tau podcast, Mr. Alex Papke. Alex, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How are you?
Doing all right. Glad to have you on the show.
Glad to be here, man.
Well, you, along with myself, are both a fellow recruiter, but where are you from originally?
Originally, I am from Seattle, Washington, but then ended up flying over to Cleveland, Ohio, and that's where I did my undergrad experience. Now I'm in Oxford.
What brought you to Ohio, of all places, and all places your alma mater, Baldwin Wallace?
Yeah, so I get that question a lot because who would want to move from, a huge city of Seattle that's up and coming with Amazon and all that kind of stuff, moving over to Cleveland, Ohio. So my thing was I was really lucky growing up, and my parents took the time to look at a lot of different colleges around the U.S., and it funneled down to two colleges, one being Baldwin Wallace and the other one being Chapman University in Southern California. So at this point, I was the colleges needed to have Greek life. I knew I wanted to join a fraternity as soon as I was a junior in high school. It had to be a small liberal arts school, and it had to have a tennis program and a music program because I was still a music student at that point. But yeah, so it came down to those two colleges, and just came down to money. Chapman was $45,000 a year, and BW was not. So
that's a big difference.
Yeah, it was like $25,000 difference. So ended up going to BW, loved it. It was a good time for sure.
Both the schools have Phi Tau, so either way, I think, or I would hope that you would go Phi Tau.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'd hope so too. I mean, this is my favorite fraternity. I mean, I guess it has to be at this point.
Yeah, you work here now, so
yeah, I work
your
here now.
Fraternity.
So, yeah.
But you've seen just with being recruiters and going on campuses, one of the things that we preach is that you can make connections through Phi Tau, whether building your resume or just through the alumni. And you've seen that firsthand, right? With you had, was it an internship or a job?
Yeah, so pretty much every job that I've had has been passed down through a Phi Tau. So first job was junior year of college, and that was working as an intern at State Farm in Medina, Ohio, with Chris Winkleman. Shout out to Chris Winkleman. He also worked for executive offices. What a guy. But yeah, cool. Yep. And so he gave me my first job because he literally just came to our chapter meeting and was like, hey, I got an internship opening. Looking for guys in the area. Literally give me a call and I'll get you an interview. And I was like, sick, dog. So that's kind of how that went. And it turned out great. It was a good fit, and he was a great boss, and he's killing it. And then the one after that was student director of orientation. The guy before me was a Phi Tau and also one of my roommates that I've lived with before. So he was like, you should like kind of do this. I don't know. It seems like a good fit. I'm like, sure, dude. It sounds like a cool thing. And, you know, I mean, he didn't just hand it to me, but had to earn it, get the interview and all that kind of stuff. So that was that. And then now this job with Phi Tau, which was, I found out through one of my chapter brothers, Logan Lukács. So.
Yeah, and you interviewed super early for that job, right?
I super did. Yeah, I Facebook messaged Logan my junior year of college and was like, hey, if you got any openings for recruitment or anything like that in the executive offices, let me know. And he was like, cool. Let me know in like November 2017, and got the interview January 2018, like right as that semester was going. And yeah, it was a good deal.
Yeah, certainly sounds like it's better than. I think I was interviewed 3 weeks beforehand.
Yeah.
2 weeks beforehand.
Yeah,
so,
dude, you got the call so late, and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to pick up my life.
Yeah, the funny thing about me was that literally on a random Friday, Daryl Thompson, the associate director of organizational growth, calls me and is like, hey, are you interested in being a recruiter? Like, one of your chapter brothers recommended you because you haven't found a job yet post-graduation. This was a month after graduation. I was just about to go to my bartending job, and I was like, I mean, I guess, like, I don't really know what it is. I wasn't the best recruiter in the world, like, at college, but I guess I could talk to people.
Yeah.
And then I got hired, and within 5 days had to pick up my life in Akron, move everything back to Pittsburgh, an hour and a half away, and then come down to Oxford, Ohio, 4.5 to 5 hours away. So that was one heck of a life turnaround.
Yeah, dude. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it was worth it. I certainly enjoy it. But, you know, I think one of the things that I enjoy the most just being about a recruiter is just being on the road. I'm sure you probably feel the same way. Just being on the road, and as well as you get to see other campuses and other Greek lives, and you kind of get to see, you know, just how these other campuses work, as well as, you know, where Phi Tau would fit in, or even for you and I, we've done RMCs together, and just see where Phi Tau fits in on that campus.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that being on the road, definitely a huge perk of this job, getting to see different cities, getting to meet new people, and just kind of be like, hey, I mean, I'm not going to be probably going back to Lawrence, Kansas anytime soon, but, you know, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. But if I happen to go back there, or UTK, or Virginia Wesleyan and Virginia Beach, then it's, you know, hey, I started a chapter here and I kind of know the area because I spent literally 2 months here. So that's a cool feeling for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, for me, the same way. I was at Southern Cal in LA, and then I was at Penn State, which is kind of close. It's like 2.5 hours from home. And then I was at Texas Tech, but I think, you know, like you said, being on the road is really cool. I think seeing all these places, especially during the fall, the second half when I was in Penn State and State College, PA, and you were at Virginia Wesleyan and Virginia Beach, we literally found Washington, D.C. was right in the middle of us, and all 4 recruiters met up after not seeing each other for like 3 months.
That was the most magical experience I think I've ever had on project because of just how grueling those projects were for both teams. And then we just, you know what, we're going to take a little bit of a vacation, take a weekend off and go to D.C. That was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And then, you know, when you say grueling, you guys kind of had it where, you know, you had kind of a smaller school. They hadn't lost their charter yet, but you guys were just kind of keeping them open.
Yeah. So they had their charter, had everything going. They just literally had 0 members. So we just went in and grabbed 10 of them, and we're like, hey, you got a chapter now. So have fun with that.
Right. When you say grueling for us, it's the fact that Colton and I went to LA, and I missed out on the whole fall thing because LA has 0 weather. And then we went straight into Penn State and snow and ice and freezing. And that was just a huge whirlwind and a huge turnaround, and just something that I know, especially for Colton, one of the recruiters, he being from Tennessee, he was not ready for.
He turned into Coldton.
Yes, very cold. But it was definitely a cool project, I think, especially, you know, for me, getting to restart 2 single letter chapters. That's definitely something that I'll be able to, you know, look back on and be like, wow, that's really cool. With more single letter chapters come, you and I are going to be doing TAW. Yeah,
TAW is going to be a huge one for us, so I'm pretty pumped about that one.
Yeah, same here. Can't wait to be up in Ann Arbor. We'll get it during the cold again, but I'll be ready this time, I think.
Yeah, this time we'll be prepared for a little bit. And plus, I know a couple of the guys from, you know, Gamma Lambda and stuff like that live up there, so we'll have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think was your favorite part of being on the road?
Favorite part about being on the road is probably seeing honestly just people watching. When you go to Virginia Beach, I'll just compare the two fall projects first. So, in Virginia Beach, it was the off season, so no one's there for the beach part. It's 40 degrees, sometimes 30. No one's there for the beach. So everyone's just kind of like doing their thing, going to the grocery store, just kind of looking beat because they're on the beach, but they can't use it. It's like, man, that sucks, man. That's I don't know why you would live there in the off season. That's definitely a timeshare plan you got to set up there. But and then in Kansas, everyone's just kind of happy to be alive because it's in the middle of nowhere and you got things going on in that one specific area that revolves around the college. So, and it's not necessarily a small town. It's like 100,000 people or so. So they got their own amusement and their own things that they do. So that's a perk that they got for sure. But yeah, just kind of comparing those two, crazy. But then there's Knoxville, Tennessee, which has mountains, has a decently sized city with, anywhere between 100 and 200,000 people, some larger corporations, and a huge college with a huge football program, especially because Peyton Manning went there and all that. So that was a totally different experience because everyone's just like, oh man, this is the best place ever. I want to live here forever. And then you got people who are from there who are like, I'm ready to move out. So they're kind of tired of wearing orange all the time. So it's cool watching the different types of people come through.
Right. And then, for your two projects, excluding Virginia Wesleyan, you had Kansas Beta Theta and you had UTK, which is Delta Kappa.
Yeah.
Okay. Those were two pretty big projects for you. You guys got a combined 80 guys between those two? Yeah,
actually, exactly 80. We finished out, I think 79. We got 35 in Kansas and then 44 in UTK. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience because those schools, Greek life is pretty prominent, and especially being Kansas, being the first project, and walking into that sorority meeting and you don't know what to expect and everything, and then it turns out to be a Justin Bieber concert, and it's like, dude, what is even happening, dude? So that was pretty cool. But yeah, UTK, kind of the same story, except the people were just much more friendly. I don't know if it was a South thing or whatever, but the people there are just extremely polite and will give you the time of day and will actually text you back. So that's kind of a cool thing for setting up meetings.
Yeah, that's definitely nice. I know in LA, I got it a little bit, but I know Colton, he got the worst end of the stick with a lot of guys would ghost him. And I think, that's just a generational thing. Kind of like you said, just even with texting back is, if you try and call these guys, sometimes they're not going to answer, but if you text them immediately, they're responding.
Yeah. It's definitely different to kind of figure out what this new. I mean, they're just we just graduated last year, so it's even with 4 years below us as the youngest person in college right now is pretty like it's not that far, but at the same time, their way of doing things is so much different than us. So that's just one thing that we definitely had to adapt to.
Yeah, and especially, now with what we're recruiting Gen Z. We are out of our generation, per se. So now, the biggest thing that, we went to Fired Up in Indianapolis last summer when we were training, and they were talking about it, and they said, these Gen Z kids or young adults now that we're recruiting, they want their money's worth right away. Like if they don't see a value in what they're joining, they're not going to join.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely, one of the toughest parts, at least when you're trying to recruit, not just for us like on a national level, but like just at these campuses, you gotta tell these kids what you're about. You got to show them, a good time in the process, but you got to make sure that these kids know that what they're joining.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, both teams actually kind of figured out that later on in the process because, I think you and Colton figured that out pretty early with the USC project because you had, the alumni involved right from the get-go. They're very, go-getters, you know what I mean? So they're right there with you to, make sure that these guys know, hey, we're, successful people having our own businesses and doing our own thing and making money or, whatever they were wanting to look for in their life to make them happy. And I think the LA guys really saw that as a benefit, and that's why you were so successful. That was what you guys had the highest new colony at USC in like the last 10 years or so.
Something like that. It was, we were, I think the third fraternity to try and expand there in the last like 5 years, and I think the fourth or fifth in the last like decade. And yeah, we had 22 guys when we left, and that was, I think the biggest one before that was 12. So
yeah, so you just crushed it.
Yeah, so we did pretty well there. They're a solid group of guys. Now they're up above 30. But I tell you what, man, a good board, and you had this at UTK, you had good alumni support. Good alumni support and a good board definitely go a long way, because we brought some of those guys into an actual, Board of Governors meeting but not only the Board of Governors, but home holding was there. The chapter advisor was there. And then, there's other Phi Taus just in the area that wanted to come back and help. And they saw all that and they're like, wow, like this is actually a thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that definitely helps, just seeing, okay, like, the two recruiters, in LA, Zach and Colton, told me that I can make connections. Well, here they are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a super powerful tool, which, I'm really glad that we utilized at UTK as well, like you're saying, because I think even before, right after we hit the 20 mark with, the interest group and the new members acquired, which I think was either week 2 or 3, was when we had we just went to like a local bar restaurant place and watched the Florida game against Tennessee, because their basketball program was hot. And we had new members come, we had interest group guys come, we had 7 or 8 alumni there and stuff like that. So it was a collection of people that can really make this hit home for those new members and be like, you know what, I joined something that was meaningful, and that these guys are still coming back and they're 40, 50, 60 years old. So that was, I think, something that they can really take home and be like, oh, this money that I'm investing in myself is actually worth something, because this is something that I want to achieve. So I think that was a great move by us to have that alumni event early, and that way other people can be influenced by that event, or by word of mouth by the other chapter member or associate members and stuff like that. So I think it's a huge move, is like you're saying, Gen Z wants that immediate gratification of where their money is going to. Alumni is the ticket there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like I said, it makes a big difference, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
And especially at these big schools, SEC, Pac-12.
Oh yeah.
Big 12 for 2 expansions that we had. These big schools, they need the alumni support, and if they have the alumni backing, then they're going to be, successful, because they just need that in that kind of environment to survive. If they don't have that in that kind of environment, they're never going to survive. They can get away with it at like a smaller school, but like we're saying, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, they need that.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And that's the thing that we gotta have to compete with too, right? So we have most of those Big 12, Pac-12, SEC have huge Greek life presence. Somewhere anywhere between 10 to 30% of their student population is in Greek life. So that usually means anywhere between 15 to 30 fraternities on campus. If you're trying to start a new colony with an average fraternity size of 60, that's already established on that campus, what's going to make you stand out from the others? You know what I mean? So that's having the alumni there is a huge help. So that, yeah,
especially at the big schools, it's all about trying to make Phi Tau stand out, trying to make yourselves kind of separate from the pack, which kind of leads into our topic of the week this week of why is recruitment important. And for us, it's trying to get on board with, we're preaching the same thing. This is, we were founded on, we were going against the grain. We gave, in a way, kind of like a voice to the voiceless. We were the ones, we were non-fraternity. And then that gave people who weren't in a fraternity a voice on Miami's campus.
Right.
And, when we come to these campuses, we're not going to be doing your stereotypical frat stuff.
Right.
That's not Phi Kappa Tau.
Right.
We're going to be, we're going to take, one of the things that my chapter likes to say, and I think, it's kind of true for a lot of chapters, is we're going to take guys that are Phi Taus, but they don't know it yet, which are men of character, and we're going to turn them into men of distinction. And, especially for a colony experience, they're going to have to put in the work, but they'll, it'll be rewarding, because they can come back to that chapter in 10, 20 years, and they might have kids at that point, kids, a wife, and they can look at that charter on the wall, see their signature, and be like, I did that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can literally say, I made something happen. Like I made this little embryo into something that's living.
Yeah, for sure. And so with the topic of the week, why would you say recruitment is important? It seems like it'd be obvious, but it's kind of a hard question.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer to that question is the survival of the chapter.
Right.
But the long answer to this question is, we as fraternity men, and more specifically fraternity men of the Phi Kappa Tau fraternity, we have this, like you said, developing men of character and men of distinction. We have this duty to have those 4 years in college to develop that boy into a man and have him succeed for the rest of his life. And for a lot of people, like you said, they don't know that they want this fraternity experience. They don't know if they want to join Phi Kappa. They don't know a lot of things because college is the time to kind of figure that out. So with us having this recruitment period of all year, pretty much, is what we're trying to preach, at least.
Right.
And whether or not people do it is, that's another thing. But, this recruitment aspect of the fraternity is so that we can pass along this experience that has changed our lives in such a monumental fashion that we can give it to somebody else that we see fit for the organization, because we know how important it is to us because we're in it, we're working for it.
Right.
We're really deep into this beast right now.
Right.
And we want to pass the way of fraternity done right to somebody who has maybe never even really checked out Greek life, someone who has had a bad taste in their mouth about Greek life, someone, whatever their reason of not joining Greek life, this is, such a powerful thing for them that they can really grab onto it and be like, you know what, this organization, I played football in high school, like that was cool. Or I did this in high school, or I did whatever. That's the difference between like a key club or a student-run organization that only meets on the days that are scheduled, versus a fraternity where it's just this ambiguous entity that you're a part of, that you can go in and out of, that you can always be a part of, that you can be welcomed at whatever, and that for somebody who didn't have that prior changes their life. 100%, without a doubt. That sort of experience will change your life in some way, shape, or form. And that's why us as recruiters have this real, and I don't want to say a heavy weight on our shoulders, because a lot of it's fun, but we want to make sure that the people we are recruiting are passing along these same expectations, these same the same accountability measures, that sort of thing. So it's it really is making sure that we can pass along the positives of fraternity to these young guys who want to make themselves better and see a future for themselves.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, I think for sure, definitely, like all you said, we're definitely trying to instill this in these guys and have them pass it down, so that way, we can come back, even, past staff, or, wherever life leads us, we can always have a place to come home.
Mm-hmm.
We can always, never forget where we came from and come back to Phi Kappa Tau and be like, that's where I got my start at college.
Right.
So, Alex, thank you very much for coming on today. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And, best of luck to you in the upcoming summer months with, conclaves coming up, and, some of your travels, as well as good luck in the fall with helping Alpha Rho and Michigan in the fall.
Thanks, dog. I really appreciate you having me on here. It's been a pleasure.
All right, so now I'm joined by another fellow recruiter, Mr. Eli Fowler. Eli, how you doing today?
Doing well, Zach. How are you?
Doing all right. It's a beautiful day in old Oxford.
It really is. We got lucky with the weather.
Yeah, for sure. Just had some tornadoes rip through Dayton. Very sad to hear that, but thankfully, which I didn't even know we had a tornado warning, but thankfully, we didn't get hit or anything.
Yes, would have slept right through it anyway.
Yeah, same here. That would not have woken me up. So you are one of 4 Zeta Lambdas from Middle Tennessee State University working for the national offices.
Yeah, that's correct. We're taking over.
Your job after this, or your dream job after this, would be what?
7th grade world history teacher.
Okay, sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. I got to do a little bit of that when I was student teaching, and I can't wait to get into that. But working for Phi Tau these couple of years it's been a pleasure and a real learning experience.
Your story about joining Phi Kappa Tau is a little bit different than most. I know I just interviewed Alex Papke, but and he joined, straight out of the fall of his freshman semester. I joined spring my freshman semester, but you went another route.
Yeah, so I actually joined Phi Kappa Tau my first senior year. That 5-year plan really works.
Oh, you did a victory lap.
I did. 4 years is not enough, and 6 would be too much. So I joined a different fraternity at MTSU, a music fraternity that was a part of the IFC. Did officer positions with that, all the different things, and then was actually the IFC VP of recruitment the semester before I joined Phi Tau. So I like to think that I'm the first VP of recruitment to go through his own recruitment almost. But yeah, a lot of good friends of mine, now my brothers, and I wouldn't want to have a college experience without Phi Tau. So they say better late than never, and since then it's just been a great experience with Phi Tau.
Well, yeah, you and I both went to Texas Tech, but being Kansas to Virginia Beach to Texas, you ate some good food.
I did. I got a solid barbecue in the Kansas City area, and the next thing you know, I'm right on the water, so it's oysters on the half shell whenever I can get them, crab legs on special occasions, and then Texas. I mean, you can't talk about West Texas without talking about mesquite barbecue. So, being from the West Tennessee area, and then going and seeing the Kansas City and the Texas, I like to think of myself as a barbecue expert now.
So just are those the only 3 places you've gone, or have you had, the Carolina barbecue too?
I've had Carolina barbecue before, just on my personal travels. I for sure have a favorite, and I have some least favorites, but all of them, they all do things great for their respective styles.
Well, now I have to ask which one's your favorite, and you might want to watch out. You might catch some flack for this one.
Oh, for sure. It's got to be Memphis-style dry rub ribs.
There it is.
If you like sauce, that's great. Go to Kansas City. If you like, mustard and vinegar, you can head out to the Carolinas. And if you like mesquite, Texas. But if you like barbecue, you go to Memphis and you get the dry rub ribs. I don't care if you're going to Central Barbecue, Rendezvous, wherever you go, you'll enjoy it.
That's very homerish of you to pick Memphis, because you're 2 hours outside of Memphis?
Yeah, my family lives, all within 2.5, 3 hours outside of Memphis, and it's it's just something you enjoy. It's a nice thing to go down there, get some good barbecue. Go down to Beale Street, but there's no place like home, is what they say. In West Tennessee and Middle Tennessee, truly become home.
It's very true. Yeah, I haven't had any of the other 3, but I've had the Texas barbecue, and I don't know if I can look at brisket up here the same. I really don't. Being from Pittsburgh, we got some barbecue, but I mean, it's nothing like Texas.
Absolutely not.
I think the wildest thing for me was seeing in Texas, you have these barbecue places. Some of them are, I don't even know, literally a little bit bigger than like a decent sized garage, and they open at 11 and they go until they run out. And some days, like especially on a weekend, they might not be there past 1.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's the best part, especially when you get there and like you're finding out like, oh, they just pulled it off the smoker, or they just pulled it off, and you're like, wow, I got lucky. And then next thing you know, they're closed down because not 15-20 minutes later they sold it all. So yeah, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say was your favorite part of being on the road?
I guess it's each day being almost like every day is a new day, but every day you really don't know what you're going to get on the road. You don't know if you're going to, have back-to-back meetings from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., how your rush events are going to go, or really just, the conversations you're going to have. And that excitement really keeps, you wanting to continue to do it. I mean, the road life is fun just because, you get to see new places, eat new food, but it's probably the most fun just because every day is a new day and you don't really get bogged down in a routine. It keeps things fresh.
Yeah, I'd say conversely, that's also the hardest part of being on the road for me. Just because, I'm one of those people where I like to have a set schedule or routine. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it depends on what it is, but I think, one of the hardest things, is just trying to juggle everything sometimes, because so for those of you, who might not know, so a typical day for us looks like, we'll wake up, eat some breakfast. If you wake up early enough, you'll be going to the gym. And then, from there, you might have, like you said, as many as 8 meetings, 8 to 10, you might have 1 meeting. Mm-hmm. It just depends. And what a meeting looks like is, we'll sit down with these guys one-on-one, just kind of get to know them, kind of pitch Phi Tau a little bit, and then, kind of get them out to an event. And then after that, we'll be tabling throughout the day, might have a couple meetings later in the day, whether it be, if it's if a sorority holds a meeting on Monday, we might go present to them, be like, hey, we're Phi Tau, we're here on campus, we'd love to work with you and your sorority with, fundraising or community service or philanthropy, especially, or you might have, a student org or with the FSA, the fraternity and sorority advisor. And then at night, usually we do an event, and usually they're pretty, like easy. I guess easy is not like the best term, but we're going to get food. Like Thursday night football during the fall is huge. Just get pizzas and watch football somewhere. Or at USC we would one of the members, he lived in an apartment that had a rooftop that had a grill on it. So we would go up there, grill, take a TV up, watch football, and we usually did pretty well at those events. And then Wednesdays, I think every single Wednesday during all three of my projects was always a sport day, whether it be we're playing basketball outdoors, or we're playing, ultimate frisbee, or, we're at Penn State, we even had to play badminton sometimes because the courts were all taken.
Yeah, shooting pool in Texas. We shot pool,
yeah.
I would say, once a week, maybe twice a week, depending on the week.
And that one definitely worked out too.
It did, yeah. I mean, just hanging out, just really anything that can get the guys, not just talking to, the recruiters, but talking to each other. And starting for them to start feeling like, okay, these are guys I can see myself hanging around with. They're quality guys who are not necessarily into the same things I'm into, but they have that same mentality of they don't want to just, do fraternity like you see on the news or on movies and whatnot. They want to build the fraternity experience they want to see.
Yeah, and like kind of what we, taught in the RMCs, you did some RMCs as well. The recruiting men of character retreats that, the executive offices can put on for any chapter that, is having trouble recruiting. We can have the recruiters come in and, kind of help you through that and create an action plan. But, step one, you got to identify the potential new members. Step two, you got to engage them. You got to, talk to them, get to know them a little bit. Step three, you're introducing them to your chapter. And, for us on the road, step three would be bringing them to an event, introduce them to either guys that have already accepted a bid or guys that are still kind of coming around, feeling this thing out, and then, just kind of playing it by ear and getting them talking, I guess. And at that point, they're building brotherhood, they're building camaraderie. And then, when they come around for a second, third event, they're like, okay, like, this is kind of cool. Like, these are some guys that I vibe with.
Yeah, the best part about that is, too, like, once they start talking to one another and kind of, feeling it out, and then you hear, like, oh, a couple guys went out and they got lunch, or they went to go see a movie, or they went and lifted at the gym or something like that, like a place you weren't even at, and they're already having these like moments that kind of are showing what their fraternity experience is going to be like with hanging out with each other. That's always not necessarily a nice surprise, but it's a very nice like moment, like, hey, I helped cause that, that they're making these lifelong friendships, and being a part of that's just something that you really can't even explain how it feels. It's just an awesome experience to kind of have. Yeah.
So what would you think, what is your favorite story from being on the road? Because you had 3 pretty good projects. I mean, you did Beta Theta at Kansas. You guys got 35 there. You had Virginia Wesleyan, which they didn't lose their charter, but you were keeping them open.
Yeah.
And you guys got them pretty much up to campus average.
A little bit shy. I think we were 3 or 4 guys short of campus average. And what's great is,
solid.
I would say 90% of that group was also all freshman guys. So, they're learning how to do fraternity right from, the first semester of college, really. So they're able to have, not only build up the chapter again, but, kind of it helped alleviate some of the mistakes that you see, some older chapters, like where they've gotten into bad habits, the 70s, 80s, 90s. Things like that, they completely just, they don't have those issues.
Yeah. And then, at Texas Tech, that was a pretty successful project too. And I'm interested to hear what your favorite story is, because I already know what mine is. But go ahead. What's your favorite story from being on the road? Just of all, 7 or 8 months that you were on the road, what's your favorite story of all of them?
One of my favorite stories actually happened at Texas Tech. We were standing out there tabling, and
you already took mine. I already know you already took mine.
Oh, I'm sure I did. Yeah. So we're standing out there tabling, and we're tabling a lot because mainly sororities, they, for some reason, they're Panhellenic. I don't know if it's a bylaw thing or just kind of a precedence. They don't give referrals, which is really the easiest way to get, build a names list. So Zach and myself were having to be out there really almost every day, rain, shine. Not really rain. I think we saw 2 nights of rain in our 8 weeks there. But when, dust storms happening and we're standing out there doing our tabling session, and we notice a guy walks by, and he's a little bit older in college. He seems like he's a senior or so, and he's, doesn't seem to be interested in fraternity whatsoever. And he was just, talking about all the things that he's, been a part of at Texas Tech, and how he actually had a bad experience with a fraternity on campus. Who, he went through the new member process, this, that, and the other, and then at the very end of it, they decided that, none of the guys they got were worthy enough to be in their fraternity. So that kind of made me sad that, that rubbed him the wrong way after, putting forth all that work, and then to see him not. I couldn't tell you how many weeks later, but be, kind of come back to thinking like, okay, fraternity can be done right, and this is a group that's going to do that. That was a really nice thing to change just one person's outlook on what a fraternity is, and help them become, an integral part of the colony that was established there.
Okay, so you didn't take mine.
Okay, excellent.
But I know who you're talking about. Yeah, real good guy. Really glad and happy that he ended up joining, that we were able to change his perspective like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but for me, it was also at Texas Tech. Also, same way, we were outside tabling, just kind of getting all the people going through lunch, and we get approached by a young man, and he says, after, so for us tabling, we did rock, paper, scissors, and we just held up a sign, said, beat me at rock, paper, scissors, enter to win an Amazon gift card. And all you had to do is beat us rock, paper, scissors. Your name goes down on the list, no questions asked, your name and number. And then, from there, we'll either, select you to be the winner, or unfortunately you didn't win. But, that's an easy names list builder. But so anyway, if they win, you can give them your spiel. If they lose, then they have to listen to you talk for 30 seconds, which you give them your little Phi Tau elevator pitch. Then you allow them to write their name down.
Yeah, because they listen to the whole 30 seconds. They've earned putting their name on the thing. So
exactly.
At the end of the day, you're building a names list of anywhere from 50 to 75 to 100 people for a good 2-hour tabling session. So
yeah, and so going back to that, so young man walks up and he says, okay. We tell him the catch. He's like, okay, but I have a question for you, and I have my own catch before we play. And we said, okay. And he goes, does your fraternity discriminate against gay people? And I just remember you and I both kind of looked at each other. I know my mouth dropped, and you kind of had a look of bewilderment on your face. You really couldn't see my eyes because I know I had sunglasses on, because I always do. But that just took me so aback. And I was like, wow, like, that's clearly never happened to me before. And I was like, we both kind of turned at the same time. We're like, no, why do you ask that? And he said that his mom had wanted him to rush another fraternity, which he did. And, he kind of went and came around. And then eventually, he found out that they don't take gay men. And I think that for me just really hit home of, wow, like, it's crazy that, first of all, that's even a thing in 2019. And second of all, it's just wild to me that, I guess just for me, it was wild that he asked that, because, it's such a negative experience. And, fraternities, especially Phi Tau, like, we're all encompassing. We don't discriminate or anything like that. And, we both were like, no, like, of course no, we don't discriminate. Like, of course we take, any and all men that are interested in this, fraternity experience. And after he kind of explained that, like, I literally felt like kind of my heart, like, just kind of start to crumble, because I was like, this is just so heartbreaking that could ever happen, like that such hate could happen against this young man, because he ended up joining, and he kind of was skeptical. He's like, I don't know, I want to feel it out. And then we eventually got him to join, and I think that was really cool, seeing him join, seeing the smile on his face, seeing him fit in with the group, and being like, yes, like, I'm a part of something bigger than myself, no matter really anything.
Yeah, no matter where you come from and whatnot and things like that.
Yeah, like,
what's cool about that too is, like, if other fraternity, like the fact that if a group would just blatantly say that to someone, because I mean, always, like, he's always on top of his schoolwork, studying in the library, involved in various other campus organizations, from clubs to major groups to even the campus ministries involved. So very good head on the shoulder, and to see, him bring all those skills he had to the table, especially, for building this Phi Tau group, I mean, we were extremely lucky to, meet him and have him a part of the group that was built there and that's still being built.
Agreed.
But yeah, it's It's a shame that was, the case, but I'm glad that he joined Phi Tau and was able to find his home, with this organization.
Yeah, agreed. Totally a shame that happened. But, I think just, seeing that we could take, really two kids or two young men that were hurt by fraternities or didn't really, like fraternities after something bad happened and kind of change their perspective and have them join, Phi Kappa Tau, what we both joined, and really kind of help change their lives and really help them out. I think that was, definitely Texas Tech, I think was definitely one of my favorite projects, and definitely comes with my favorite stories of, being like, okay, like I'm actually like making a difference in young men's lives by having them join this organization.
Yeah, as opposed to either other fraternities or even student orgs. Like Phi Tau just does things differently, and Texas Tech was just one of a few examples of last year where we got to see that. All our projects, we enjoy not only meeting the prospective members or the guys who end up taking bids, or who guys who become anywhere from the president to just every other member of the group, but it's just seeing the changes that take place in just a small span of 8 weeks, and how these guys not only view fraternity, but really own what it means to be a fraternity man is a great thing to see.
Yeah, totally agree. So that kind of leads into our topic of the week, and our topic of the week is, why is recruitment important? And in your words, it's kind of a loaded question. It's kind of easy, but it's kind of hard at the same time. But what would you say? Why is recruitment important for not only Phi Kappa Tau nationally, but especially on a chapter level?
Well, I mean, there's a few ways I think I could answer this. One of it would be, one, it keeps your chapter going, and that's just through any recruitment. You recruit guys, you're gonna have a few more. It's gonna last longer. Which it's nice to come back to see a legacy. I don't think recruitment needs to be the goal. I think positive recruitment needs to be the goal. Because if you're just recruiting guys to fill a chapter room, that might not be the best thing. But going through being intentional about who you're recruiting and why you're recruiting. One, you'll be able to further the legacy of your chapter, but two, you'll be able to be proud of that legacy by looking back and seeing all the great things the guys are doing, not only on their campus, but for serious fun, but for your school as well, because, you got to be loyal to your college and your chapter, and that's a great way to do that, is to recruit quality guys who are going to be not only loyal to your college and your chapter.
Yeah, totally agree. I think, it's just, obviously, and you hit it best. You just don't want to recruit. You want to have positive recruitment. You want to intentionally recruit who and why. And, the how is definitely important too, because you want to be sure that you're recruiting these guys in the right way and that you're not giving them the wrong sense of, all we're going to do is be, a social organization. No, you're also, we're going to be doing philanthropy. We're going to be doing community service. We're going to be bettering our community as well as bettering ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Fowler, thank you very much for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your workday to sit down for this interview.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Zach. I'll see you on the third floor of the executive offices. Also, gentlemen, if you're ever walking through for a tour of the offices, come up to the third floor, say hey, get yourself a cup of coffee, and look forward to seeing you guys at Conclave Convention or whenever I run into you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eli.
All right, thank you.
Well, once again, thank you folks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. This is the first episode during this summer series. Once again, each new episode will come out every Monday, hopefully, sometime in the afternoon. But we thank you again for tuning in. One last thing, I'm not being paid to plug these, but I feel like I am morally obligated to. If you or your chapter has not signed up for the Leadership Academy, please do so now. Registration and the entire Leadership Academy for Ohio will be done. So please sign up for Colorado. And if you can't make the one in Colorado, please sign up for the one in Georgia. Please make sure that your chapter is represented at these events for the Borodale Challenge. Also, make sure that you have your delegates set up and signed up for Conclave. It is the homecoming of all Phi Taus, coming back to the wonderful town of Oxford, Ohio, where we were founded. Come have some fun. It's going to be a blast. Friday, we're doing the Serious Funathon, which is a carnival where all the money will be going to Serious Fun Children's Network, our philanthropy. For us recruiters personally, we have been kind of hitting the streets, getting businesses to help us out, donating money, taking ads out and stuff like that. Going to be a good time. We handpicked the food truck this year as well. So come on out to Conclave, come back to the homecoming tour, come see where we were founded and where we get to work every day and represent Phi Kappa Tau. So that's all for today. We'll see you guys next week.
We are brothers now and ever, until the day we die. And when that time comes rolling round, and we bid our last goodbye, there is one thing sure and certain: let us bow our heads in awe. We'll meet again